Hey folks, it's Keith, Victor Echo 3 Sierra Victor Quebec, back today with another video that is actually a follow-up to an email I got from someone who sent me one a couple of weeks ago. And they had a very simple question, and it was, okay, I know the alphabet, what now? So they were actually looking for some guidance as to how do you proceed on their journey. Now, obviously, this was someone studying on their own. They weren't going to a club or organization or anything like that. They were doing it on their own, which is, I can tell you from my own experience, because I did do it on my own for about 6 months before I went to the Long Island CW Club. It's a tough journey when you do it on your own because, number one, you don't know the sequence. Everybody's got different ideas as to how you should do it, how you should study, and so on. And if you go to a club, anyone, the LICW, which, full disclosure, I do teach one of the beginners classes for, CW Ops. There's all sorts of them that can help you, guide you along the way. They have a sequence of learnings set out, various stages that you go through with them. So they guide you along that way. If you were to go out to any ham radio operator who does Morse code and say, so what do I do now? So if you talk to 10 people, you're probably going to get 10 different answers because we all have our own opinion as to how you do things, just like on here. These tend to be my opinions. Lots of other people will disagree with what I think. So it's all part of being in that friendly body of Morse code operators. We all like to help people and we all have an opinion. So I'll give you some here, some of the stuff that I went over with that person. Lots of other people may disagree with the sequence. Some may disagree with what I suggest. That's fine too. But I will tell you from personal experience, if you belong to a club, an organization that teaches Morse code, your journey will probably be a lot easier than trying to do it on your own. And I get all that, I want to be independent. I don't want people telling me what to do or when to go to a class. I get all that. I did that for 6 months. So I understand where you're coming from. But I can say from personal experience, once I switched over, and in my case it was to the LICW, it could have been to any of the other organizations out there, it became a lot easier because questions I had, I found out everybody had. Areas that I was getting very discouraged with, turns out most other people had the same issues. So you're never alone and you're never out there, stuck out there on your own. So it's one of the advantages to a club. And like I say, do a search. There's lots of really good ones around. So what do you do? So the question I got was, what do I do now that I know the alphabet? Well, there's a whole list of things that you can do. And I'll go over some of these. They're not in any particular order. I want to stress that. These are just ones that came to mind as we were going back and forth by email. So if you know the alphabet, then I'm assuming you also know your numbers, because those are really, the first things that you've got to get out of the way. Your letters and your numbers. And again, do not memorize those charts you see with all the dots and dashes or the dits and dots, whatever you want to call it on. Never, never, never memorize them. That will set you back a long way once you're on the air. Instead, learn by sound. Learn the sound of the letters and to recognize that sound and instantly know that it's a letter. So, if it's dit, well, you know right away. There it is. That was an R. All right. You're not sitting looking up and saying, okay, was that a dit? Don't do that. That's probably the strongest recommendation I will make. So you've got your numbers, you've got your letters. I would say, number one, start doing your Morse code abbreviations. Again, send them, right? Send them. Listen to yourself send them. And all of these things you should be recording all the time. This is one of the biggest advantages to having a smartphone. They all have a voice memo app, or if they don't, you can get one. And you can record yourself sending Morse code, sending your practice sessions. So when you're sending your letters and your numbers, you should be recording it, listening to it. Do you understand what you sent? If that was someone else sending it to you, would you have understood what the letter was or what the number is? Because when you just send on your own, you don't record yourself. We all sit there going, wow, we're really good. Mm-hmm. Record it and see what it sounds like and see what you sound like. All right. Can you actually copy what you sent on your own? So that's one that I would do. And then, like I said, Morse code abbreviations, I think, are always good. Again, most of them are fairly short. They're 2 letters, 3 letters, 4 letters. Learn to send them. Learn to listen for them. So again, record, 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 record. Now, this is an excellent book by Chris Radowski, which everyone should read if you want to learn Morse code. He's got lots of good tips, the history of it, and so on. On his webpage, he also has a lot of material that you can download for free, including some of the QSO protocols as well as the CW abbreviations that we were just talking about. So excellent source and lots of good information there as well, and really an excellent read. Learn that sound, because these abbreviations really in the end have a sound pattern. And when someone sends you those groups of letters, you'll recognize it instantly. It's like when someone sends RST, right, as an abbreviation, you're going to recognize that sound. You don't have to write it down. You know he just sent you RST because you know the sound pattern. So these are things that you can work on. So I would say that's one. Certainly work on the abbreviations. Number 2, and these are really interchangeable with number 1, can you copy strings of letters, groups of letters? Or are you hung up doing one letter at a time? One of the disadvantages to the apps out there is they tend to teach you one letter at a time. You can answer, or not answer, you can receive that one letter and go, oh, I know that letter. Tap the screen or whatever. What happens now is they send you 3 letters, one after another, at regular copy speed. Can you still copy all those letters? Or are you now starting to get lost? Maybe you got 1 letter, maybe you got 2, but you missed the next one. And along with copying strings of letters, you have to learn the ability to let go of things that you miss. So if someone's sending, I don't know, the word radio, RADIO to you, and you miss the D, don't sit there and say, oh, was that a D? Was it a B? Because in the meantime, the guy's finished sending the rest of the word. So you have to learn what one of our instructors calls instant recovery, instant error recovery. You missed a letter, just keep going. Forget that. Put a space on your paper, whatever you want, and move on to the next letter, because you will be left far behind. And I did this myself the other day, and I checked it because I was in a conversation with someone. I missed something in my brain because I was taught the old way, where you memorize dots and dashes. And my brain instantly went back into, okay, how many dits and dahs did I hear? And while I was figuring that out, the guy kept sending. And because we were using sentences and it wasn't sort of just scrambled letters, I could look back after and see what letters I missed. I missed 12 of them. It's a lot in a conversation because I was stuck trying to figure out one word. So don't know a letter, skip it, move on to the next letter instantly. Not 3 seconds, 4 seconds, or a minute later, because at that point you're well out of the conversation. So I would say that's something that's important. Number 3, record your sending. Right? I can sit there and listen to an app, and I can hear what the app is sending me. Can you send on that app? Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But I would suggest, if you have a smartphone, one of the best uses of that smartphone will be for you to record what you're sending, what you're practicing. And I would record every time you do it. Every time you have a practice and you're practicing sending, I'd record. And I'd keep those recordings for at least a couple of weeks. So if you're sending the alphabet today, or whatever it is, words that you want to send, you're sending that today, record yourself, listen to it. Maybe a week later, do that same exercise again, record yourself. Is it easier to copy? Have you been getting better with all of your practice? right? So record everything you do. So point number 3, definitely record what you're sending and what you're practicing, especially if you're doing groups of letters or words. Are you leaving in the right space for each letter? Are you leaving a sufficient space between each word? And again, doing this on your own is a lot harder than doing it with a group or club. I would say point number 4, and again, random order. How well can you send your call sign? Again, this is something you should be recording. Practice sending that call sign every day, every single day. Know your call sign. Why? Because it's got to be pretty much perfect. Otherwise, people on the other end will be copying it down wrong. So if you're doing POTA, as an example, and you send your call sign and the guy's got it down wrong and he repeats it back to you wrong and you don't correct him, you don't get credit for it. Somebody with a call sign similar to yours, they're the ones who are getting credit for that one. So you've got to know your call sign. You have to be able to send it very, very accurately. And again, how well can you pick your call sign out? If you listen on the air, there's a lot of noise, right? There can be static, there can be atmospheric conditions, there can be people tuning up or moving into the frequency beside you. If someone sent your call sign on the air, would you be able to pick it out and go, that one's for me? And that's one of the advantages for POTA when you're starting. You have to learn to recognize that call sign really quick. Your call sign has a rhythm, a sound pattern to it. You have to be able to pick that out. So that's an interesting one. So can you send it? Number 4. Number 5, can you pick your call sign out? Number 6, how well do you know your Morse code protocols? Now, a protocol is simply a system, if you want, a process, a program, call it whatever you want. So when you're on the air and you want to talk to someone, there's certain things you're going to do and say. When they hear you and they want to reply, they're going to answer in a certain way, a certain sequence of letters and words and so on. And then may go back and forth several times. Now you can find some of these protocols. They do publish them. LICW, which is the club that I belong with and which I teach one of the beginner courses for, they have a protocol they follow. If you look at Straight Key Century Club, the SKCC, you go to their page, they say, here's our protocol, here's our sequence, here's what we want you to say, and the order. And they've got it all there for you. So you can write it down and essentially make a cheat sheet out of it. If you look at FIST, FISTS, which is another very good Morse code group, they have a protocol that they like you to use. So there are ways that you communicate on the air. Basically, I'd like to call it a script, almost like a movie script. There's a sequence. So you need to learn that sequence. So you need to find one of these organizations that has a nice clear one for you. Write it down, practice sending that back and forth. For instance, if I'll use the SKCC, we exchange numbers. So part of their awards systems that they have is collecting other members' membership numbers, on the air through conversation. So they have a script that they use where, you contact someone or they contact you. Well, you're going to say certain things. When they're done with that, then it's the other person's turn to say whatever the sequence is that they want for that particular award, and so on. So they are there, they're out there. Just matter, you may have to, if you're on your own, dig around a little bit. A club will have one that they can give you and that you can practice. So again, practice sending it, practice listening. Can you decode what you actually sent? Well, it's an important one because most conversations on the air in Morse code, other than what we call rag chewing, where basically it just goes anywhere the operators want, most of your conversations are going to be in a particular sequence or script. So that's something to keep in mind. Another thing, and I'm going to call this, I guess this is number 7. I'm not keeping track of the numbers very well here. So problem number 7. Can you do some simple head copy? Now there's an expression that if you're learning on your own, you won't know. If you're in a club, an organization, yes, they will teach some form of head copy. Head copy is something you get into over time. You'll probably do most of what you do in Morse code will be what we call head copy. So in its simplest, it's simply instead of writing something down, you sort of read it in your mind as the person sending it. So if someone is sending my call sign, I'm not writing down my call sign. I can sit guard. Okay, yeah, he said VE3. There's the SVQ. So that's me. I'm not writing it down when I hear those letters. So that's a very simple version, but you will over time find that when you're in a conversation with somebody, again, like RST, again, going back to RST, someone's in a sequence with you, you're communicating with someone. So one of the first things they're going to do is they're going to send you your RST. So at first, let's say for the sake of argument, it's what they're going to send 599. So you will hear RST 599. Are you going to write that down? Probably not, because you know what he's sending. There's no need to write it down. So in fact, you've done a little bit of head copy there. Now, generally speaking, even with numbers like the number 9, most people will use the letter N if it's in the RST because it's faster. Again, one of those abbreviations that you see with Morse code. So that's something you need to work on. It's clubs will help teach you that because they have things that they do. For instance, we do 2 and 3 letter words. We get people to sit there and if I'm the instructor, I'll send it to them and say, okay, what did I just send? And they haven't copied anything down. They've had to listen to it and try and get it. So that's a skill that will come over time. It's the skill that will take you probably, I'm going to say, over 15 words per minute, because most people can copy up to about 15. After 15 words per minute, it gets harder and harder, and you really almost have to learn how to read that Morse code in your mind. And the guys doing well up in the 20s, 30s, 40s, they're all doing it by head copy. No one's writing anything down. So keep that in mind too. So head copy is something that, yes, you need to know. It will get you through a lot of Morse code over the years. It'll save you a lot of copying and writing as well at the same time. So number 8, I'm going to go back a little bit to one I mentioned earlier, which is this instant recovery, instant error recovery. It really is a crucial skill. So I'm going to do this just as a separate item as well. And I know I mentioned that earlier. You've got to be able to do that. You have to be able to focus on instant error recovery, right? Miss a letter, just move on to the next one. It will make most of your Morse code journey a lot easier when you're copying people. And again, keep in mind, your brain will also fill in gaps. And I'll use again, because I've used it a few times, RST. You hear the R, you thought you heard an S, but you're not sure. Don't sit there and try and figure it out. Was that an S or was it an H or was it a 5? No. You're not sure? Instantly move on to the next letter and try and catch the T. So depending on where you are in your sequence, you looking at your page will say, oh, R blank T, and then 555, 555, whatever. Yeah, you now know, right? You know that person sent you the RST. Your brain fills it in for you. So it's not the end of the world, right? When you miss a letter, but it's a bad habit to break. Very bad habit to break. People tend to sit there and go, what was that one? In the meantime, like I said, the guy's still sending. Another possibility for you, and again, looking someone on their own, do you have what I'm going to call a code buddy? Morse code buddy. Somebody that you can practice your sending with. Any number of ways to do it. You can set up a Zoom, have a Zoom meeting. You can send to him. He can send back to you, whatever. But it's really helpful if you have someone because then you get to hear how that other person is sending. You get to recognize some of the issues. You can help each other out. You can say, I think you sent really good letters, but you're running them all into each other, one after another, rather than leaving a space. So there's different things. So Code Buddy is very good. It gets you used to copying someone else. It also gets you used to listening to Morse code that someone else is sending. So it's a great way to go about. And again, you know, try and do it. Try and find someone who will listen. It could be your husband or wife. Maybe they'll take up Morse code and listen to you and do a bit of sending it back and forth. It could be your kids. Kids love Morse code because they can send dits and daws and no one knows what they're sending. So there's all sorts of different ideas, but see if you can get a Code Buddy. And number 10, are you ready to get on the air? All right, because once you've gone through what I have here, you're pretty much ready to get on the air. You don't have to be super fast, right? You can write QRS, right? Or send QRS, send slow. You can do that. There's no one has to be super fast. But are you ready to get on the air? And now that you are, how are you going to do it? Do you have a goal? Have you set a date by which you want to get on the air? Most of us respond to goals. So if it's just, one of these days I'll get on the air, that's probably not going to happen anytime soon. But if you say, okay, 6 months from now, I want to be on the air by noon, whatever the date is. I will be on the air by then. And you keep reinforcing that, and you keep looking at that date, chances are you're probably going to get there. But just a goal of, sometime I'll do this or maybe I'll do that, is probably not going to get you there. Morse code it's difficult, but learnable. But you have to have everything lined up for yourself. Right? Don't stress yourself out. I say to some people on my videos, it's going to be your first time on the air. Yeah, we can do that. We can go into Zoom. I'll send you a link. Log in, and we'll sit there and I can say, okay, here's the frequency. Let's see if we can hear each other. And if we can, decide who's going to call the other and walk you through the process. So you get your first conversation out of the way, because it tends to be a little scary. So keep in mind when you do all of this, so what? Now you know the alphabet. What comes next? There's a lot to Morse code, a lot more than most people think. So learning Morse code is basically a process, right? It's nothing that's going to happen overnight. And I've seen some of these videos. Learn Morse code in 20 minutes. Yeah. We can all memorize dots and dashes, which, as I said, is the worst way to do it. So, no. Get help if you can. Get someone to learn with you, someone to study with, or join one of the many groups out there, your local ham club, if they're teaching Morse code. There's so many different ways that you can get access to it. If you learn on your own, it's going to be a lonely experience. And at least when you're learning with a group, in whatever type of setup, if you're with a group, you're going to realize most of the people have the same problems. They're making the same mistakes that you do. The instructors, whoever they are, will have lots of stories that they can tell you about ways that they screwed up, so that you know that you're not on your own. But I hope you do it. I hope you make that choice to study it, learn it, practice it, and eventually get on the air, because we certainly would enjoy having a chat with you. It's Keith. Good studying. Hope you have fun with it. 73.